You're listening to Building the Broncos with Nick Kendell and Carl Dumler, Broncos country's leading draft and scouting analysts. Head on over to milehighhuddle.com to sound off on all things Broncos.
All right, welcome into Building the Broncos. I am your host, Carl Dumler, and joining me as usual is Mr. Nick Kendell. Nick, I was thinking about your weather thing, and yesterday we had power knocked out to our area, and it didn't hit my house. Other people's houses were knocked out, and then we have another storm moving in big today. So if any of us lose it, it's me this time.
We actually have a storm coming in right now as well. So
there we go. So everybody, if we're gone, it means probably tornado took our house.
It means Buana's going to have to take over. It's just, you're doing it live, Buana Beast.
That's right. Yep.
Good luck.
Oh, he's shaking his head. He's so excited. But it's we got an exciting show, a lot going on in the NFL today, and unfortunately not for the Broncos. But that's okay. We still got one more day. We'll see what happens, and at least right now, it seems like even if a deal doesn't get done, the Broncos and Simmons are still on good terms. They still both want to get something done. So if it doesn't happen this year, could happen next year. I hate the whole idea of 1-year contracts. It drives me nuts. And yes, I am in my Building the Broncos hat. Got it from my daughter. She, it took a little bit of coaxing, but a little bit of candy. Yes, that as a parent, you learn bribery very quickly. Unfortunately,
with a puppy too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was going to say you and your dog. So yeah. Anyway, we're excited for today's show. Anyway, we do have some Broncos news of at least Madden ratings and some guys coming out. I think they have the top 10 for sure released for the Broncos
and the top 2 rookies.
And the top 2 rookies. So we got a little bit of talking to do, just discussing who's right, who's wrong, and kind of how Madden does their thing. We kind of want to talk about that too. Just it might help us understand a little bit of why some of the numbers may be a little bit lower or some of them are a little bit higher than you might think. But anyway, we also want to let you know you can find us on Twitter. If you disagree with us on these ratings and how we value them or how we value these players, definitely hit us up on Twitter. You can find me at Carl Dumler, MHH, and Nick at Nick Kendell, MHH. And you can find the podcast Twitter account at BTB Football Pod. Make sure you subscribe to our show wherever you listen to podcasts and leave us a rating. We really appreciate that. It's great to hear from all of you every chance we get. And also don't miss out on all of our great off-season content at milehighhuddle.com of Sports Illustrated. Also know that our podcast is powered by Overtime Media.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
So I thought we'd talk about something real quick before we got to Madden. And something that I know we've seen in the comments quite a few times. And Jason Peters. I know a lot of Broncos fans were hoping that he would maybe end up with the Broncos, that he would bring some extra competition. Eagles just signed him to a 1-year, $6 million deal, I think is what it ended up being. $3 million guaranteed. So pretty reasonable deal, but the odds of him coming back or coming to Denver was pretty slim from the beginning, I would say. Unless there was some crazy injury and the Broncos were forced into making a deal. But just want to make sure everyone knew that unfortunately, Jason Peters, that dream has died.
Yeah. I mean, it was never really likely. The Broncos seemed content with bringing back Elijah Wilkinson, Garrett Bowles, and hoping on Juwan James. And I mean, let's be completely honest, Jason Peters really struggled last season. I mean, is he actually going to be that much of an improvement on Garrett Bowles this year? I don't know. I actually don't know if that's fair to say either way. So Garrett Bowles is younger. He's shown more durability, and you already have him on here, so you're not having to give up that money at $6 million, which, hey, you might need to still sign somebody off free agency, bring in somebody else. So I know that some people had their heart set on it because they're hashtag anybody but Garrett Bowles. But in the end, it probably isn't going to make much of a difference, as I don't think either of those players were that different in their impact on the offense.
Yeah. And I just wanted to give a shout out. We got a lot of our usuals in here. We got Robert, Kenneth, Charlie, Steven, Darian, of course. Buana's always in the background right there for us. Pabby as well. Got Cody Potter in here today.
Kenneth Booker.
Yep.
Matthew Olivo.
Kevin Peterson.
Yep.
Yep. All right. So we really appreciate you guys joining us here. I'm sure there'll be others as we get going in this. I'm glad to be back on Tuesday again.
Yeah.
And miss my Tuesday crowd. But just excited to talk about some football here. And so let's start off. I mean, we got the most obvious one, Von Miller. He's been the top Bronco probably since 2014.
That's a good year. That's a good one, Carl, because I was going to say 2013, you probably still have to give it to Peyton.
Yeah.
That being said, the quarterback's a little bit different. Like, you can't have all of them rated based on their value. Otherwise, they'd all be 90 pluses, the good starting ones. But Von Miller, from 2014 on, definitely probably the guy who should be the highest rated. And he comes in at a 97, which is really good. I mean, that's an elite player. One of the better pass rushers in football still. We saw that with statistics. So a lot of people are claiming, Von Miller's over the hill. They should trade the contract, blah, blah, blah. Those people probably hate candy and puppies and whatnot as well, speaking of the stuff we were talking about earlier on the podcast. So Von Miller at a 97, I don't really have an issue with it. I think that's a good bit for him. That's a good spot. I think 97, he could get down to a 95. I don't see him getting in that 99 club even if he has a good year. But 97, that's a good spot for Von Miller. That's probably right about where I'd put him. 96, 97.
Yeah. That's so. Let's just talk about it now. Madden. A lot of times they are slow to raise somebody's score and they're slow to devalue somebody's score. They have that built in that a guy could be a 1 year wonder and they don't want to be that guy that overjumped and said all of a sudden, this guy wouldn't had a 1,500 yard receiving season. Boom. Let's make him a 99. They're not going to do that. They'll jump you up just little by little, unless you are a top 10 pick and you show right away that you are just a star in the NFL. And so, I mean, like Von Miller, he jumped up real quick because number 2 overall pick.
Pedigree.
Had a good rookie season. Sophomore year was outstanding. That was his 18 and a half sack season. So, of course, he jumped up real quick. But others, it's always a little bit slow. And I always remember like Chris Harris. It was always funny to watch his score because it always came in low, even though he'd had like 4 or 5 good years in a row. And now he's almost on the decline and they've had his score higher. So it's just kind of a weird little setup for them. And we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get to another player we think is very underrated by his score right now. Von Miller, he is where he should be.
Yeah, I feel like Madden, they are as much about evaluating the player's talent level as their brand. The more well-known the player is, typically the higher their score is going to be. And even if they've fallen off a cliff, if a guy's already earned that tier, they're going to keep it. So You see that every year. I mean, that's how when I was younger, when I used to play Madden, I'd sign the old guys that were on free agency and win the Super Bowl because there's a bunch of like 80-plus rating guys in free agency because they have the name. They're not going to lower them. I don't know if you kind of get a union member card, so to speak, when you've been that rated highly for long enough. But Von Miller, I guess, do you agree with the 97? Or are you one of in the camp where you think he's maybe starting to fall a little bit, should be a little lower? Because I understand I think sacks are a little bit overrated. They're sexy, but they're like home runs. If you have a guy who gets on base constantly, hits doubles, if they're not hitting it out of the park, that's still good. They can have a good slugging still.
Yeah.
So I think that's the case with Von Miller. I think he finished 6th last year in total pressure. That's just off the top of my head. I know it was like 8 to 5th.
Yeah, it's personally, I almost feel sacrilegious saying this, but like 95 is probably what I would have given him.
Angry reacts in the chat. Everybody F in the comment section right now. All right,
I'm sorry.
No one has bad luck keeps happening to you.
I look at how few 90 or above grades they gave out. And you and I did last week, or I guess on Saturday, where we would rank the top 10 guys. And Von Miller still is in our top 10, but
top 5 for me.
Well, top 5 for you. I think he was 6th for me or something like that. And so like I would give the top guy 99 and then just kind of go a little bit down one by one. And so he'd be right there at that 95, 96. Boycott Carl. I'm sorry. I know I said it.
Also, sidebar here. Darian, the real one here, NCAA 14 is the greatest football game ever assembled. I still bust out the Xbox 360 to play NCAA 2012. And I stuck on 2012 because that was the year. I mean, Von Miller's at Texas A&M. Cam Newton is at Auburn. You got Julio, A.J. Green, J.J. Watt at Wisconsin. I think the Hawkeyes are rated super high that year too. So 14 was great, but for my own nostalgia's sake, the 2012 version with maybe it was 2011. It was the one with Tebow on it. So good. Oh, anyway, back to the Broncos.
Yeah, I miss those games. I had a roommate that played that all the time. I'd come in and the score would be like 120-0.
So much better than Madden.
Yeah. But I know someday, and I know a lot of people are in here in the chat kind of talking about, they haven't played Madden or they haven't bought a new Madden in a long time. Yeah. And I understand that. It is. It's frustrating that they have cornered the market and they haven't had really any reason. Why should we improve? If we keep selling lots of things, we don't have to do much work at it. Why do it? And I've been a sucker. I've bought it most years. I haven't bought for like the last 2-3 years now. And I keep thinking about this new one because I like the rookie class that we've got. I like a lot of the players on our team. I like Drew Lock. And so I want to be able to play with all those guys. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't play video games a whole lot as much as I used to. I mean, I used to go through like a season in like 2 days. That doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
And
not to get political. God, if Chad's watching, he's probably screaming right now. But it's a joke, just a joke. But like, if there's any argument for like open market capitalism, it's Madden. The exclusivity that the Madden EA has with the NFL destroyed the game. I mean, they used to be the 2K games, the blitzes, and I think that competition made those games all better. And now it's just complacency. It's the same thing every year. So,
yep.
Hello. I did not see that comment.
Yeah,
I was laughing at this one. Oh,
which one? Sorry, go ahead.
Justin Taylor. No free market system for EA in the video game scene. That's absolutely it.
Yeah,
that's a big issue. Kenneth's teasing me here. What's up, Nick and Carl? You guys are 94 in podcast rating. You guys would be 99, but Nick has a drinking problem. Every time I see that, I think of an airplane where the guy would like, I got a drinking problem, and then he just like spill the water all over.
Yeah. One of these days, that'll be you. I was surprised during the draft, man. That many hours being on camera.
Yeah. Oh man,
you did good. You held it together. You did well.
I was tired.
But yeah, it is. It's frustrating that EA has it the way it is, and we'll see. Hopefully, there's talk of college football getting their game out there pretty soon. Is that going to be connected to EA or not?
Who knows?
Okay, if they're not, then I could see a lot of people going, you know what? I'm not going to buy both games. I'm going to go try this new one. And EA might have to actually adjust a little bit and say, okay, we just lost half of our crowd to wanting to go play college football. And so I hope that happens. I really do, because it really should make them have to up their game and actually do something. and it's frustrating that it has turned into more of this like ultimate football. Go buy these cards, spend all this extra money, buy the game for $80 and then spend another $1,000 buying your team.
Microtransactions.
Yeah. And it makes them a lot of money.
Yep. Sad.
It's hard to argue with that too much, but at the same time, we the buyers,
consumer.
Yeah, the consumer, we lose out. But anyway, all right, getting back to some of the Bronco players here. Number 2, and a guy that I know a lot of people maybe want to talk about here a little bit, Justin Simmons at a 90. I think he's still a year away from really jumping up into that 95 kind of crowd. If he has another great year this year, maybe gets that all-pro kind of nod, which I think he can do, second year in the system, more comfortable. But, I was – after seeing the Chiefs hand out all this big money when everybody's like they're not going to be able to afford to keep their team together, and at some point it's still going to come back and they're not going to be able to pay everyone like they want to. I mean, they're going to lose some people over the next couple years. It just that's going to be how it goes. But at the same time, it is frustrating to see them handing out all this big money. I mean, $400 million contract to one player, $85 million contract to another. You see the Browns handed out another, $25 million a year contract. And here we are, the Broncos not signing a guy that has done everything right. I mean, done absolutely nothing wrong.
Yeah.
He's been a great starter on the field, been healthy the entire time, at not a premium position, but a position that's important to the defense. He's great in the community, great in the locker room, loved by everyone. And if there's a guy that you sign to a long-term deal, this is it. And unfortunately, they're dragging their feet.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
Yeah, I think the 90 rating is probably about right. I think anywhere from 88 to 92 would have been fine. So 90 is literally right there in the middle of that bell curve for me. So I think that's fine. As signing Justin Simmons, it's a disappointment for every reason you said. I think playing the second year of this Fangio system, he should be even better next year, which means, hey, the Broncos might actually lose money if they didn't pay him. Now they're going to have to potentially open market instead of this exclusive negotiating rights that they had with the franchise tender, which hurts. That being said, I do think there is an argument worth discussing. I don't agree with it, but there's one worth discussing where, Justin Simmons, he was very small sample size his rookie year, played good in small sample size. His second year, played pretty darn good. Third year, not good. Granted, Darian Stewart was atrocious 2 years ago. Let's just call it as it is. And that Vance Joseph defense just fell off a cliff. So Justin Simmons didn't have a good third year. And then last year he played elite. So 1 year elite, 1 year is too small sample size to say. 1 year good, 1 year average. You have that Vic Fangio defense where they do really good. He does a great job with the safeties. I mean, every safety is getting big paydays playing in the Fangio defense. Yep. So I guess that's the biggest argument here is like, how much is it Justin Simmons being a great player, which I think he is a great player. I mean, we did the Broncos redraft. Number one overall pick for me was Justin Simmons. That's how much I think of him. But there's an argument to be made about whether or not Simmons is this all-pro elite top 3 level safety, or is it because he's in this safety friendly defense? So I think, there's a little bit of both of them.
Yeah.
The truth lies in the middle, but Simmons is a young player. He's been healthy. He's perfect for this system. I think he's a perfect fit for this system. And then you have all the things you said. Locker room, outside the locker room, paying your own guys. It's important. You already have maybe the what's the word? Schism. That is Phillip Lindsay not getting paid and Melvin Gordon getting paid. So I don't know. There's politics involved in it too. So I would have paid him, but that's me.
So the other issue I have here is there any better timing to get a big deal done than right now? Because you got all these other guys on rookie contracts. And so by the time you could maybe be thinking, okay, we got to move on so we can pay these other guys because they have bigger, more important positions, this would be the year to get that done.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to be starting to work on trying to get, Justin Simmons locked up. Drew Lock's going to be wanting a new contract here in the near future. Cortland Sutton's going to be wanting one here in the near future. And you start just getting a lot more people kind of compiled together needing a contract at the same time. And so that's my other big issue of why don't you just get this one done? So then you got those 2 years figured out. You don't really have next year, other than if you don't pay Justin Simmons this year, you don't have a whole lot of guys you got to go pay.
Yeah. Going forward this year and also not paying Justin Simmons this year, there's something to be said about a rollover potentially. Granted, you could have structured it where you could have rolled over more money, but that's more of a Bob Morris, Nick Corti over at overthecap.com question than one for me. I dabble in capology, but that's not my strong suit, so to speak. So, I don't know. It's irritating. I think the 90 overall is a good rating. I think the Broncos will get a deal done eventually with him. And he will become a long-term Bronco. Now, what the dollars and cents are for that, I don't know. Hopefully the Broncos don't – I think we talked about this. Maybe it was you and me. It might have been in the Mile High Insiders. But what I don't want the Broncos to do, and it's not as egregious as with the quarterback position, but I don't want them to do what the Cowboys have done with Dak Prescott, where, you're dragging your feet. Wentz gets a deal. Another quarterback got a deal off. I can't remember who. Mahomes gets a deal. Dak Prescott's still not signed. Guess what? If you would have signed Dak off the top – you would have been in such a good position. And now you're in trouble because you have to pay him based on what those other guys got paid. So I don't want guys like Derwin James getting paid before him. I don't want Micah Fitzpatrick getting paid or some of these other young safeties before Justin Simmons really is on that market, because then you're going to have some issues.
Yeah. All right. Well, we have a couple super chats coming in here. We want to get to those real quick because we really appreciate you guys being a part of this. And so we got Cody Potter here coming in with the $5 super chat. I heard a rumor that KC was looking to cut Eric Fisher either this year or next. With the Jones signing, I can see this year could be good for Vaughn.
Yeah, Eric Fisher is got absolutely obliterated in the Super Bowl. I think he's not any better than Garrett Bowles, to be completely honest, and he's getting paid a good contract right now. I think he's their 6th highest paid player. So if they moved on from him, I could see that. Now, granted, you have a average tackle. It could get worse there. They did draft Lucas Niang. Maybe that's their plan. Another guy that they could move on from is Sammy Watkins, is one that gets paid a lot. Maybe Travis Kelce down the line coming up here. So teams can move money around. They're a cash-rich team, unfortunately. So like the cap is kind of like with the Cowboys. It's imaginary. Teams have gotten good enough at moving money around to that. If they have the cash, the salary cap doesn't matter. Now, if you're cash poor, then the salary cap can be a real hindrance on you. But
and that's a conversation for sure. I mean, we could have that about the Bolin family. Like everybody loves Pat Bolin, and there's plenty of reason to love him. And he didn't have a problem, spending money where he thought it was well spent. Facilities, getting those to look really good. Stadium, even when Mike Shanahan was here, he was throwing money around left and right. He just trusted, hey, Mike said I need to spend this, I need to spend this. The Broncos got a little bit more conscientious of their spending after Mike Shanahan left. I mean, that's just kind of how it went. But they're one of the more cash poor teams, unfortunately. And so that means they can't go and sign these huge signing bonus deals.
Because you have to put the money in furlough.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons, actually, there's a lot of rumor that the Raiders moving on from Khalil Mack was because the Raiders, they got a haul for him. Granted, I think the Bears still got the better end of the deal, but the Raiders, because they're building that new stadium and everything, they actually did not have the cash available to pay Mack that signing bonus. So instead of doing that, they traded him. So, while the salary cap is a salary cap, it's not as, again, capology is freaking complex. I deal with numbers all day, but don't make me do it through the finances. But it's not as simple as the salary cap. There's cash considerations as well when you're paying these guys.
Right. All right. Kevin Peterson coming in here with the super chat. Appreciate that. I know everyone hates the Gordon signing. Perhaps it's a question for Eric. Maybe we draft a 1st or 2nd round running back 2 years down the road and have 2 workhorses again in 2022. Thoughts? So I saw Jim Nagy tweeted out something here today. Did you see that?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So somebody had posted the running backs that are going to be in the free agency market for 2021. They have Phillip Lindsay listed there. He's going to be a restricted free agent. So he's kind of a free agent, kind of not.
Give us a 2nd round pick for him.
I was going to say, if somebody's willing to give up a 2nd round pick for him, I know a lot of people are not going to they're not going to like us today. I'm talking about Von Miller being a 95, and now we're talking about Phillip Lindsay not being a Bronco after this season. But it really is. Jim Nagy tweeted out then it's not only that the free agent market is going to be huge, the draft market's going to be huge. You're going to have Travis Etienne that should have been coming out this last year. A lot of people were kind of surprised by that. Is it Chuba Hubbard?
Chuba
Hubbard, is another one. There's some big name running backs.
Najee Harris.
Yeah, there's going to be some guys that you can go get. And really, Phillip Lindsay's another showing of you can find running backs anywhere.
Not only that, but the running back continues to get devalued. So 1st or 2nd round pick?
The only time that I am okay with that decision is like the Chiefs this year. You're coming off a Super Bowl, and even then, there's other positions like cornerback that I would have probably went in a different direction just because running backs, you could have got another one later on. But that's the only situation where you feel like, okay, we've got a great team everywhere else. If we can get a dynamic running back that can, pass or not pass, can be a receiver, can be good between the tackles, can be a good blocker, that would be a nice piece to add to the offense that's already dynamic. I understand it a little bit. It's still not the move I would have made because their secondary still looks pretty bad. If they lose this year, it's going to be because of that secondary.
Yeah, talk about Patrick Mahomes as the asset. I know you got a running back, but I would have rather them gone offensive line as well. You talk about setting that up. Duvernay Tardif, MD, is going to be probably moving on here soon as well. So, and that's interior offensive line there is not very good. So,
Yeah.
You got to protect the franchise. I know getting a running back there helps, and that helps them in the short term. Maybe they're viewing it very small window. But then I think about like the Patriots and drafting Sony Michel on the first, and that's just been terrible. Like, it done diddly, despite a good offensive line. So I don't know. Running backs first, second round for me, just as a general rule of thumb, hard pass. It would take a very special player. Like, I'm talking like Saquon Barkley falling to like 15 to 25, where I'm like, gosh, he's too good to pass up at that point.
Yeah.
That's when we can get in that conversation, but typically those guys don't fall. So
right. And so then we have hashtag Nick's Beer Fun from Terry Randall. Appreciate that. And it's got to get a drink in there.
Not due to my lawyer, Chad Jensen, who's not my lawyer, but I'm not allowed to disclose exactly what I have, but it is quite tasty, and unfortunately it's from Kansas City. So today was a bad sports day for me, Carl. Justin Simmons doesn't get extended, and then Chris Jones, who was one of my biggest draft crushes. I don't know what it is. Mississippi State interior defensive lineman, given to me. I want them all. Fletcher Cox, loved him. Chris Jones, loved him. Jeffrey Simmons. I mean, what is in the water in, is it Oxford, Mississippi? Starksville? I don't even remember.
Yeah, I don't know.
They have the cowbells. That's about all I know. Here we go. Chris Hernandez coming. Haven't seen you for a bit. Chris, hope you're doing well. Cheers to you as well and the MHH fan.
Yeah, appreciate it. And thank you guys. And I saw Boycott Carl somewhere in here. Yes, from Kenneth. Yeah, Boycott Carl. Yes, I'm sorry. Not my day. But we're both a little fired up because of some things that have gone down and not happy with the Broncos on a couple other things. So, yeah. Oh, this is a good one. Okay, Carl and Nick, Joe Mixon or Phillip Lindsay for 2 years?
I think Joe Mixon's the more talented running back, so I'd probably go with Joe Mixon. That being said, I can't tell you individually. I don't know each player as a person, and obviously Joe Mixon had that incident when he was a freshman. I mean, it might have been the first week on campus in Norman where he punched somebody who allegedly said a racial slur to him, so still shouldn't punch somebody. I think it was a female as well. So, I mean, he was a top 20 talent, and he fell to the mid-second round because of that. There was a lot of talk that the Broncos might have gone that way, too, if he had fallen to them. So, who knows? That's what would have happened. But I think Mixon, I mean, hell, I'll be completely honest with you guys. I'm targeting the heck out of Mixon in every single fantasy league this year. I think Mixon is going to be I think he's a really talented back. Yeah, if I was picking any like the kind of like next tier of running backs, I think Mixon and unfortunately Josh Jacobs are the two that are bound for a big season.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. But all right, now getting back to our Madden ratings here. We got the other Smash brother at the safety position, Kareem Jackson, coming in at 87. And here's one. I mean, I understand the rate. I probably would have had him about 89.
Wow. Where did you have Simmons?
I would have had him in that 90 to 92 range.
Okay. I think Kareem Jackson, given how hard they rate these guys and they really differentiate star players, I think getting Kareem Jackson at 87, especially being the Broncos' third best player, I think that is a really good testament to how good he is. So 87, I have no issue with that. Actually, that's probably exactly where I would have put him. He's probably – it's hard to say he's the most underrated when he's 87, the third best player, but like from a national perspective and from the fan base, I think probably Kareem Jackson is the most underrated, where I'd say maybe somebody like Todd Davis is the most over-scrutinized. A little bit different there.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
And then we have back-to-back running backs. and a little bit of a surprise of who's ahead of who, I guess you could say. Because Melvin Gordon last year was a top 10 rated running back on Madden. Not this year. Phillip Lindsay at 85, Melvin Gordon 84.
That surprised me. And I do wonder, do you think that Madden gives a bump for pure speed rating? Like for just the speed is like the number one differentiator and you'll like skyrocket up for the higher speed you have, because Phillip Lindsay is tied for the third fastest running back in the game. The only two players above him are actually both San Francisco 49er running backs and Mostert and Bridia. Gosh, pick some easier names there, 49ers. But I think that Lindsay, with the third fastest speed, tied with like four other players, but still, maybe that's the differentiator here between those two. That being said, I mean, if I was doing this, Melvin Gordon would probably be an 85, and Phillip Lindsay would probably be about. I'd flip him. Melvin Gordon 85, Phillip Lindsay 84.
This is the one from Glenn Hauser. Phillip Lindsay is enjoying that. Probably, honestly. I mean, because he is one of those guys. He's kind of like Chris Harris. He feeds off of people not believing in him.
Yeah.
And honestly, I felt like with Chris Harris, there were those times, especially over the last couple of years, he almost kind of started then going the opposite direction of I'm too good to do all these things. And I still love Chris Harris, but I loved when he had that little bit more of a chip on his shoulder when people were doubting him and doubting some of his abilities on the field. When he wasn't getting the Pro Bowl nods, he wasn't getting the All-Pro nods, all those kind of things.
No.
And Phillip Lindsay's kind of that same way. And I mean, you've seen it this offseason. He's been fired up. He's upset. He kind of thought he was going to be the guy that got paid. And we'll see what happens moving forward.
Not only didn't get paid, but also his ability to get paid in the future was extremely diminished because of his workload. I mean, it's not like wide receiver where there's more touches to go around. You can play 3-4 on the field at the same time. There's still touches to go around. Don't get me wrong, but it definitely cuts it. Takes a little bit of he's a smaller slice of the pie, so to speak. And actually, I wanted to get to this one here. I think they're talking about my consumption here. I'm surprised he can make it through a podcast without having to pee. Charlie, your first mistake here is you can't see my lower half. Like I'm dumb and dumbering it down here. If somebody walked in, hey, can I have that beer? Have a sip, officer. You got to keep me going.
Get the boots, man. Get the heck out of here. Oh, God, man.
That Denver guy was full of not a lot of
and this is kind of interesting. I wanted to talk to you about this. Darian P. coming in here. Melvin can get his rating up when he comes to Denver instead of scrolling on Twitter all day. So something, if you didn't know, Phillip Lindsay's obviously been in Denver pretty much this entire offseason. He's been working with Drew Lock quite a bit. Of probably the player that I've seen the most with Drew Lock is either Noah Fant or Phillip Lindsay. Those two have just been in lots and lots of videos working with him, where Melvin Gordon still hasn't made it to Denver, hasn't even signed his contract. Like that, that's how disconnected. And how big of an impact is that going to make on the competition?
I think it definitely could have some impact, but it's not like Melvin Gordon doesn't know what he's doing, so to speak. And I don't think the running backs, their role is not as chemistry based as you'd see with the wide receiver or the offensive line. There's some to be said about the timing of the rushing lanes and how to do that, but I think it's probably less important for running back. If there's any position that could be, plug and play, just come in and just go work, it's probably running back. Obviously there's kicker and punter where totally different thing, but running back, that one would probably worry me the least. I do think that maybe there's a little bit to be said about the scrolling on Twitter all day. I can't chastise him too much because that would be the pot calling the kettle black. Guilty. But
it's our job, though.
Oh yeah, man. That's. I wish it was that. I mean, kind of, but anyway. But that's definitely an interesting point to make. And never question Melvin. Here we got Glenn Hauser coming in. Glenn's a great poster on here, always coming in clutch. Never question Melvin's motives. Worked out great for him last year. Yikes. So we will see about that. I mean, he's still a talented running back, and it hurt him last year. But, guys, how many times do I got to say it on here? Running backs are only as good as the blocking in front of them. And that Chargers offensive line, oh, my God. Like, Justin Herbert, put him in bubble wrap and put him on ice. Don't let him see the field because that Chargers offensive line will get him killed. They stink. So I think I'm not as worried about it because that offensive line, again, running backs are as good as their blocking.
I will say, though, one thing he did complain about was he kept having trouble with the handoff with Phillip Rivers. Yeah. Where he said we kept running into each other because our timing was not right. And so then for him to be missing this valuable time where especially it's going to be a weird offseason, it's going to be a weird training camp. I'm just interested to see what kind of difference that makes for sure at the end of this. But,
they have to count to like 5 Mississippi while they hand sanitize the ball, like after the snap, right? So you can work on that a little.
They're gonna have the foggers going.
Oh, that's right. I saw the Oakley face mask. Have you seen that? That's pretty sick. I might just get one to wear around the hospital. Just a big old Hawkeye helmet with like the mask.
But Renee Burst coming in here, longtime fan, first time subscriber. # state of being. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Renee. Good to hear you. Thanks for commenting. It's good to see new people coming in here.
Yeah, we love it.
We love the old heads. Don't get me wrong, but y'all boring. No, I'm just kidding. You're great. So just the more the merrier. So let's get back on track here. Obviously, we'll keep looking at the comment section here. This is the chat. But the next one on the list, Broncos traded for, actually the next two on the list, two guys the Broncos traded for, one of them for a late 4th round pick, AJ Boye, coming in at an 84 overall. So I think I've probably been the hardest on the AJ Boye trade or the acquisition as anybody. It's not that I'm not excited about him. I'm tempering expectations a little bit. A lot of people, I think some people, especially before I went back and watched his tape from last year again, I still had the 2016 version of Boye where he was killer that season in Houston. Absolutely killer. He was incredible. Him and Kareem Jackson on the other side. But last year, just not that good. And I don't know if it was the team just completely falling apart. I don't know if it was losing Jalen Ramsey. I don't know if it was an injury, blah, blah, blah. But I don't know. He scares me a little bit. He's one where I wonder if it's that stuff we talked about earlier where it's more about the name brand and what they did in the past rather than actually how they're going to be this season. Yeah.
Yeah. If we went off last year, he'd probably be 72.
I was going to say 76.
Wow. But, see, yeah. I'm being the more harsh one tonight. That's different. But no, you're right. I mean, he did not have a good season. That's why obviously the Broncos could trade for him just a 4th round pick that he couldn't. Yeah, and he couldn't demand a new contract or anything like that. And you and I talked about it earlier. If he doesn't work out, that secondary looks bad. There's a lot of young guys that maybe one of them or two of them could step up and make up for it, and Callahan could stay healthy, but it looks scary. The Broncos absolutely need him to show up, just like last year they needed Juwan James to stay healthy. And that didn't happen. And that offensive line just completely struggled all season because kind of the plan was Juwan James on one side, he can handle most things one-on-one. We can help Garrett Bowles on the other side. Well, Juwan James goes down. Now you got to leave Garrett Bowles one-on-one and then help on the right side. And that still wasn't working very well. And you had young guys on the interior. The whole thing fell apart when one guy goes down because you just didn't have the depth to handle it. And
That's true. I actually was on a podcast. I gifted on a podcast last week with the head of SB Nation for the Raiders and a Chiefs writer as well. And we went through the positional all AFC West team. And something that made me feel like it's a little bit better about the Broncos cornerback situation is that outside of the Chargers, which are built completely different than every single team in the AFC West, the Raiders and the Chiefs, who are probably the Chargers, I think, are the worst team. I mean, Tyrod Taylor, I don't think it's going to take him anywhere unless they have potentially one of the best defenses in the past few seasons, which is possible, but not likely. All those teams have really bad cornerback play,
Yeah.
The Raiders probably had the reach of the first round and Damon Arnett. The Chiefs, Breland got a legal trouble. Was it a DUI? It's something. So the Broncos, while their cornerback, I don't feel great about it. In the AFC West, I think that's kind of the status quo. As well as the teams are getting fast on offense, except the Chargers, who are zigging while everyone zags. So we'll see how that works. But I agree because the cornerback scares me. I think it's up there with offensive tackle.
Right. And we'll probably do one of our episodes like we usually do of ranking the positional groups in the AFC West here sometime before the season starts. And you're right. I mean, the more you think about the actual division itself, cornerback play is not great.
Yeah.
I mean, across the board, other than, like you said, the Chargers, but they're built in a very different way. They've really invested big time in their secondary, and it means that they've had to cut in other areas, especially on the offense with the offensive line. They haven't hardly spent anything on it. And it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But I do agree. 84 for him, probably it's taken a risk having him that high, but at the same time, he has 3 of the last 4 years have been really good.
Yeah.
So you're kind of hoping that one of those kind of guys can really bounce back from before.
Yeah. And did you happen to chat? Hit me up. I'm going to look it up as well. Do we know what Chris Harris Jr.'s Madden rating was?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, I will look it up to see where everybody's at. But how about let's go on to the next one. Another 84 overall.
Okay. Well, we got Darrell Casey, of course, and then Courtland Sutton. This is the one that I know a lot of people, when it came out, were like, what in the world? This guy just had Pro Bowl season with some of the worst quarterback play in the NFL, if we're being very honest. And honestly, the interesting thing is, even when Drew Lock came in, Courtland Sutton's numbers actually kind of went down a little bit because he started trusting other weapons on the team because he had to. I mean, every team was daring the Broncos to beat them any other way. And Drew Lock was able to find, Hamilton or Noah Fant and to let some of those guys have some decent games. And so, but still, Courtland Sutton, great season considering the situation, made just a giant leap in his second year, proved himself to be right there on that borderline top 10, top 15 wide receivers in the NFL. And so for him to only be an 84 is a bit of a shock, but at the same time, like I said earlier, players have to prove it for at least 2 years for Madden to really take you serious.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. That said, Sutton should have been at least an 86. I mean, granted, he is outside the top 10 of my wide receivers. He's right there. But then there's a lot of good wide receivers right now. So at that point, are you like ranking them against each other, kind of grading on a true curve where you can only have so many guys in each spot? But there we go. I actually just found that as well. Chris Harris Jr., the 89 overall. I know that the bridge seemed burned, but if I was king of the Broncos, whatever the hell that means, I would have probably used that money to retain Chris Harris Jr. instead of paying Melvin Gordon. That's neither here nor there. But I think that 84 for Courtland Sutton is probably the one that upsets me the most. I think we're getting upset about it just to get upset about it. Wow, he finished with an 89 last year. Good call, Cody. That's a good one. And forget Madden. The game has a curse for a reason. Who was the cover of last year's game, Carl?
I don't know because I didn't buy it.
I think it was Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, he broke the curse.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, so, I have no real issue. I think Casey at an 84 is probably just about right. That's about where I'd put him. And actually, I went back and watched some Casey, looked at the stats. I'm excited to have him. Don't get me wrong. Don't twist it any way, but he was much more of a player or a difference maker in the run game than the pass game. And that, I guess that made me just a little bit disappointed. He's a power player.
It doesn't disappoint me too much just because I look at like last year until they made their changes, that run defense was terrible. They got better as the season went on, but you add in Darrell Casey. I mean, he's obviously going to be great against the run for them and can get them into a lot more, I hope, third and long situations. And so that'll be a nice thing. They can also go into their nickel sets and still feel good about stopping the run against some of the bigger packages. That's another thing that really sticks out to me with him when he's on the field. Because there are times the Broncos did it. They triple blocked him and they still couldn't stop him. Yeah. And so, he is one of the best at holding his ground where he is. And yes, I would rather have him be great against the pass as well. But he's still good in that area. Yeah. And I do wonder, with better pass rushers on the outside in the Broncos than what he had there with the Titans, how much of a difference does that make for him in the pass game as well?
That's a good point. And Scott coming in here, Flippiac, Sutton is the next Jerry Rice without a doubt. There's only one Jerry Rice, but maybe Sutton could be the head-on straight Terrell Owens. I think that's the comparison that I've really enjoyed the most. Yeah. Guys, we're already at 43 minutes, so we better let you know what's going on. This is the Building the Broncos podcast. Read the hats. Love the hats. Hey, speaking of the hats, as Chad will say, get your swag on. HuddleUpPod.com. You can get these ones. These are the best looking ones. Make no bones about it. I know that it's a little bit wordier than DVDD or whatever, but I don't know. I just love the tricolor. It's for me. And the white makes it pop more. So easily my favorite. And most importantly, guys, YouTube, wherever you're at. Subscribe, like, share. If you haven't dropped a like, I see we have an angry react. You know what? I get mad too when Madden ratings come out. Today's, again, worst sports day. Chris Jones, he was supposed to be a free agent. God bless it. That was my dude. He was not supposed to be a Chief anymore. Do you know he added me a couple years ago when I was tweeting that, like, oh, man, you should have joined the Broncos. What are you doing? You're breaking my heart. He said, nah, fam, I'm good. God, dude, that hurt. That hurt. I know. And then 10,000 Chiefs fans in my mentions, which at least they're literate, unlike Raiders fans. Ooh. God, Raider fans.
I know.
They're a different breed.
Raider fans saved my life. I'm not going to talk too bad about them.
Okay. Well, that's a story for another time, I think. We got a couple more Broncos here to talk about. Bradley Chub coming in at an 81. Coming off the injury last year, we started off kind of slow. I don't have an issue with that. Granted, he did have a 12-sack rookie season. He's a top 5 pick. Maybe that's a little bit low, but it's by like 1 or 2 points. Yeah, it's fine. And this is bigger. Go ahead.
Yeah, he's got a lot to prove. He does. I mean, I'm guessing his injury rating is pretty low now. The second ACL. We'll see. We'll see where things go from here, but that's going to matter. Obviously, missing last year, hard to grade how he's going to come back from that injury. Yeah. And in his rookie season, I mean, it was a great rookie season. Don't get me wrong. But it was pretty much an 8-game where he was great and 8 games where he was not great.
I mean, that's kind of the thing with pass rushers, though, right? Like, pass rushers, the things come in bunches. Like, people will get upset about Von Miller not having a sack for, like, 3 games, but then he has other games where you have multiple. So it's like expecting them to put up, like, statistics game after game, I don't think is feasible. You know, it's very much – and especially, like, it depends on how much the team is scheming them out of the game as well. So, like, if you can get it at the end of the day, you still get it. You have that 16-game sample size for a reason, right? Like, am I wrong in saying that? Like, I feel like people are a little bit too hard on pass. It's all the positions where it's much more sporadic. You know, like wide receivers that way as well. Like, oh, well, Cortland Sutton didn't have a 100-yard game in the last 2 weeks, but he like had a couple 150-yard games, and it all comes out to averaging 80, 90, something. I'm just making up numbers at this point. You know, you can't have that output every single game.
Yeah.
So sorry,
you're right. You're right. And I know I was reading something the other day, and it said Khalil Mack, I think half of his sacks have come in like in 18 games.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when he gets going, he gets going. And when teams get stupid and say, hey, like the Broncos did with Schofield, and they said, hey, we're going to keep leaving you one-on-one with one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. Good luck, buddy. And he got destroyed. That was terrible. So, yeah, sometimes teams just get stupid and keep doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. And a pass rusher takes advantage of it. Other times, there's a lot of games where they get tons of pressure and no sacks, but they still make a huge impact in the game. And so we'll just have to see on that. But hashtag Carl's majestic beard. Thank you. It's coming in real nice on this one. Some of them don't always do that.
I was going to say, Carl, when you first came on today, I was like, God damn it, you're making me look bad. I got this horrible neck beard. I mean, I try. I plug my nose and blow and hope like it's going to be like Play-Doh where it just kind of pushes itself out, but not been the case so far. So I can't rock it like you. I got this, but
I've always said when I was young and could grow a beard and everybody's like, dude, you got to grow a beard. I'm like, I don't want to be that guy that looks like he's 40 when he's 17. And so I'd always shave it off because I just couldn't stand it. And I've come to appreciate it now, mostly because my wife's like, you look good, man. So when the wife says you look good, you keep what looks good.
I agree with your wife. Yeah, I know. Careful, guys. We're going to have to turn off the cameras here soon. We're going to get that E rating on iTunes. Yeah. But the last guy here to talk about, probably the most surprising to me, Bryce Callahan at an 80. I know that he had this is kind of goes against everything we said, right? Like, I guess maybe Madden part of it also is like when a guy gets a big contract that validates that he's a good player. So then Madden kind of retroactively grades that guy. So like, let's say if Sutton would have gotten paid this next offseason, like, oh my gosh, Sutton got paid as a top 5 wide receiver. We better rank him as such. Callahan got paid a decent contract. So he's 10th best player for them, rated at an 80 overall. A little bit surprising to me, though.
It is. I mean, the guy's been injured like crazy throughout his career. He's been a nickelback. And I mean, as much as you and I value that position, a lot of others don't.
It's more valuable than the running back position.
It is. And it's starting to catch up. But even like you looked at like when Chris Harris was signing his deal, and a lot of people were kind of like, well, he doesn't deserve it because he's more of a nickelback than he is an outside corner. And to me, I'm kind of going, he still deserves because he can play outside, inside, he can do it all. Yeah. But still, a lot of people viewed him that way, that he was that nickelback. And so I'm a little bit surprised that he is that high. But hey, that last year with the Bears, like they were, I think, what is it? PFF or DVOA rated the Bears as the second best defense of the last decade. Can't remember which one it was. And I mean, he was on there and he played great. He was probably the best nickelback in the NFL that season. So I guess, yeah, I do. Carl loves nickelback.
I know. I kept laughing too. Like, oh, Carl, look at this photograph. I didn't have one to share. Yeah, I guess I could have pulled one up of the dog. But that one surprised me. I guess if there's anybody, absolutely right, Terry.
Terry, thank you, Terry. But some of the best advice I ever got. That was what my dad told me before my wedding.
Okay, so we have the top 10 Broncos. Is there anybody that you feel like could have displaced, I guess, Bryce Callahan as that last guy?
Graham Glasgow.
Okay, that's what I was going to say too. So,
got it.
Or Alexander Johnson.
Yeah, because I mean, he did get a little hyped up, especially PFF was like, dude, this guy's one of the top linebackers in football. A lot of times they kind of follow PFF a little bit on what they do with some of that. But, again, I think he's got to do it a second year before he really gets that bounce up.
Yeah.
And what is Hamler's speed on Madden?
I do not know Hamler's speed off the top of my head. Sorry, I saw the speed of the running backs, all the running backs. I know that Henry Ruggs is the fastest as well as the highest rated rookie wide receiver, and Judy and Lamb are both 75, and Hamler's a 70 overall, which is annoying. I feel like there's some running wide receivers who were not better than him that got rated higher. Devin Duvernay is rated higher than KJ Hamler, I believe, which is just stupid. But Hamler's got speed, so he's going to be, even though he's rated lower, if you are playing the game, you're going to want to get him out there because speed is
94 speed, 95 acceleration.
Oh, that's nice. That's good. Okay, well, who cares? He could be rated 2 with that speed. He can drop every other pass. I don't care, in Madden at least. So he'll be good. He'll be fine. No worries. That's good. Yeah. And so, Carl, I'll just run through quickly maybe some of the other teams, the AFC West. Keenan Allen, 91. Joey Bosa, 91. Casey Hayward, 90. Chris Harris Jr., 89. Derwin James, 89. Melvin Ingram, 88. Brian Bulaga, 88. Desmond King, 88. Hunter Henry, 85. Austin Eckler, 85. So that Chargers team had a lot of talent at the top. Patrick Mahomes, 99. Travis Kelce, 97. Mitchell Schwartz, 96. Tyreek Hill, 96. Both of those probably, I would have had no issue with them being 97. Tyrann Mathieu, 93. Chris Jones, 92. Too low. Frank Clark, 83. Damian Williams, 83. Harrison Butker, 83. And Sammy Watkins, 81. And then the Raiders, Rodney Hudson, 93. Richie Incognito, 90. Josh Jacobs, 88 as a second-year running back. So, again, Carl, there goes your theory there. I agree with it, but that one didn't.
He was a first-round pick, though, at running back. So
true, but, I mean, we have Bradley Chubb at an 81 who had a better first season than Josh Jacobs did, even though the injury. Still. But anyway, Trent Brown, 87. Darren Waller, 85. Demarius Randall, 82. LaMarcus Joyner, 82. Tyrell Williams, 82. Derek Carr, 79. And Gabe Jackson, 79. So, I guess the real question is, before we get to the comment section here and start to wrap up, because we're about to get out of here, where is Drew Lock going to be ranked?
So lowest Bronco they have there is obviously 80.
Mm-hmm. So he's lower than 80, or he is 80. They just didn't have him.
Right. I'm going to guess. I'm going to guess 78.
Okay, I was going to go 75. Just again, maybe you said they follow Pro Football's lead. Pro Football Focus's lead. Pro Football Focus does not believe in Drew Lock.
Yeah.
So maybe a little bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy at this point. We didn't like him going into the draft process, so no matter what he does until he absolutely thoroughly proves us wrong, we're going to dig in our heels there because, I mean, there's still a chance that he falls off. 5-game sample size, let's be real. Right. I think probably a 75.
No, it wouldn't surprise me. You're right. PFF has done that a lot, where they continue to have that bias throughout. They just don't want to be proven wrong. I mean, who wants to be proven wrong? And if you can manipulate stats to make it look better for you, I guess you get to do that. But I also saw there was something about the difference between film analysis and just analytics analysis. And those two crowds and how they go about things and how they view players, like Dak Prescott. He is a great case for that. The numbers, they look usually really good. If you look at them, most of them are top 10. But a lot of people who watch the film and just say it just doesn't quite add up.
Yeah.
And like, he's had a lot of talent around him. He's had a great offensive line in front of him. Are there other quarterbacks that could have done similar things to him? That's part of why Cowboys are dragging their feet a little bit.
Yeah. So we got 5 minutes left. We got to hit some of these questions here. Carl, 30-second answer here. Off the wall from Duke Boynton. Been wanting to ask, why did Dan Reeves consistently choke with his Super Bowl appearances? Real quick answer for me. It's probably goes beyond Dan Reeves. Dan Reeves definitely probably was an issue. Again, that's before my time. But those teams became obviously pretty apparent that the NFC vastly outclassed the AFC, and Elway could only drag them so far.
Yeah, you're right. And I do think part of it also is Elway was a little bit ahead of his time, where he was that gunslinger, like, let this guy go, let him go do his thing. And the Broncos, a lot of times, they were that 3 yards in a cloud of dust, and they'd get to the fourth quarter losing and say, John, save us. And Dan Reeves did a lot of that. And I think Dan Reeves defensively did some great things. He always kind of invested more in that side of things. But it was not always the best fit. You're right. AFC, NFC difference in talent was just really big. I mean, it was like AFL, NFL difference in talent.
It was kind of like when you'd see Alabama go up against the Pac-12. It was just like, yikes. I'm sorry, Pac-12 listeners, but if you talk about two different dichotomies.
Right. You're a top 5 team. No, you're not.
So we got Slippery 702 coming in. Darrell Casey was rated 84 along with AJ Boye. So that's a good one. How many sacks do the Broncos get this year? Carl, that's a good question. What do you think?
Well, so I have between Von Miller and Bradley Chub, I have them at about 27 sacks between the two of them.
Okay, so the average last year was right around 41. So I think the Broncos will be a little higher than that. I'll get them up to 47, which will put them in the top 10, top 8. Yeah.
They're going to be playing with some more leads. They've got more offensive firepower. Yeah, hopefully. We'll see how that plays out. But that's been part of that.
When's the last time that was happening?
I know. It's been a while. And so if they have health across the board with Darrell Casey, Von Miller, Bradley Chub, those 3 guys getting after the quarterback, Shelby Harris can get after him. It wouldn't surprise me to see that 47, 48 number kind of pop up there for him.
Yeah, that's a good one. Charlie Beagle coming in. Cooler name. Richie Incognito or Whitney Merciless? Whitney Merciless for sure. That's a killer name.
Yep.
So, Incognito, I mean, who is he? No, just kidding. That's a stupid dad joke. Let me see. We also, somebody said Joe Burrow gets a 76 first overall pick and a lot of hype coming in. So
he's coming off one of the best college seasons by a quarterback ever.
Yeah.
And I mean, he had a lot of talent around him to make that possible, but there's been a lot of quarterbacks with great talent around him too. I mean, even that LSU team before, who all did they have? They had Landry, they had OBJ, and they had one other wide receiver at one point.
I just remember they had Jeremy Hill at running back, who ended up being a top 60 pick. And he ran the heck over the Hawkeyes in the Capital One Bowl that season. It was ugly. They slowed down OBJ, but they just kept giving the ball to Jeremy Hill, who ended up being just essentially a touchdown vulture for the Cincinnati Bengals for a bit.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about this today, Carl, before we get out of here. Fantasy football, man, fun, but with how much it values running backs, just dumb, right? Like, it's just, I was thinking of, like, man, fantasy, like the only time that running backs like really matter, you talk about them. Like I used to listen to the fantasy footballers all the time. Like how much they talk about running backs. It's like, well, no wonder I kind of have drifted away a little bit. They don't matter. Why are we wasting our time?
Well, and it's the hard part is I got really down on it just because it seemed like every year, if I took a running back in the first round, they got injured. I mean, I took Jamal Charles the year he got hurt in the first game. And I mean, you just can't come back from that.
Yeah.
And I've taken other guys. I think I took Saquon Barkley last year, and then he got injured and quarterback controversy and everything else was going on. And it just, I've made mistakes along the way. And so I've learned from that and kind of gone more towards the guys that are pretty consistent year in, year out of wide receivers and tight ends and trusting in them to stay healthy. And then running backs, you can kind of pick and choose a little bit as you go. You just got to be quick on the waiver wire and again, just get a little bit lucky on some health stuff. So I mean, those who are really good at it, kudos to you. I can't devote that much time to really getting into fantasy football and, all the draft stuff that we do, all the regular season stuff we do. It burns you out pretty quick. And so fantasy football is kind of like low on my priority list of things. I mean, I love those who do it, but I can't be great at it.
Yeah. So, well, all right, guys. That was the Broncos going over the Madden team there. We should probably get out of here because Boss Man gets a little irritated at us if we go over an hour long. But you can find Carl on Twitter at Carl Dumler MHH and myself at Nick Kendell MHH. Make sure you guys go over to milehighhuddle.com, an affiliate of Sports Illustrated. Go to iTunes, leave us a 5-star rating and a comment, as your support can help us continue to bring you our Denver Bronco deep dives. Also, make sure you follow the Building the Broncos podcast and all our other great audio content by subscribing to the Huddle Up podcast wherever you listen to these shows, but specifically on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, like, subscribe, share. Mean a lot to us. Can really help us out. You can follow us on Twitter at Mile High Huddle and at BTB Football Pod. For Carl, I'm Nick, wrapping up another episode of the Building the Broncos podcast. Carl, what you got the rest of the night?
I'm just going to hopefully work on an article here for Mile High Huddle. Okay. I've got kind of a busy week the rest of the week, so going to try to get something in here. And so if anybody has any ideas of things that they'd really like me to write on, I'd more than happy. Send it over Twitter.
Gosh, at some point, I just never had the time because it would take so much charting, but I wanted to do Phillip Lindsay's run success based on directionality and personnel and shotgun versus under center.
Ooh, that'd be a good one.
I mean, that's going to take some groundwork.
Yeah, that is.
But that would be an interesting one because I feel like that, with how much more shotgun we're going to see this year, maybe that's the telltale as far as Melvin Gordon, because Melvin Gordon is actually pretty good from the shotgun.
Yeah.
So
what do you got tonight?
If it's not going to rain, hopefully going to go take the puppers on a quick walk and do some more packing. Ooh, fun. Got the move coming up, so not that fun. But I mean, we have a puppy going on here. Nothing's too crazy, so life's good.
Yeah.
But appreciate all you guys. We're going to get out of here. You guys are great. We love you. And as always, go Broncos.
You've been listening to the Huddle Up Podcast. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com to keep the conversation going.